Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ellen. Today we're going to play with wet on wet, moving paint around, semi-abstract kind of, Christmas floral kind of colors and foliage. So you can see the poinsettia, some gold paint, metallic, and then we're going to go in and we're going to paint this little baby and we're kind of going to destroy it and then paint it a little bit more again. Yep. This is a fun one. This is kind of based off a card one I did last year. This is one to teach you how to get out of your comfort zone, just playing with the paint. You can kind of move the paint around, erase it, put it back in, have a lot of fun with it. This is what it's all about. You're supposed to have some fun with watercolor. You're not supposed to be frustrated. If you have any questions, leave in the comment section. Also check out my Patreon. I have ad-free videos, traceables, exclusive tutorials, and a live stream in the top tier. It's just a place people go and support my channel, which I appreciate so much. You can check it out right here in a second. Boop, when the little thing pops up. So without further ado, let's grab our brushes, our paint, and our water, and let's have fun. Okay, so I'm going to go over supplies that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using today this block from Fabriano. This is the Aquarello watercolor block. Some brushes I'll be using my Princeton 10 round from Neptune series. I might use my 1/2 inch cat's tongue brush from Neptune series also. Just a 1 inch flat wash craft brush, nothing fabulous. It's really kind of stiff, so it's a little more like you probably use it for acrylic paint. This is not a really soft brush. This is stiff because we're going to be doing this whole technique where we're moving paint around. Paper towel, and I go with my paints as I use them. It's always the same paints in my palette. And I always use Holbein. People are like, oh, you don't describe what kind of paints you have. Yes, I do. In the description box, you hit those words that say show more. Right under the little description of what I'm talking about in the tutorial, there's little words that say show more in like black. You click on those words, a whole box drops down. Links to everything is in there. You can go find everything. And I only use Holbein paint. It's what I choose to use. If you don't choose to use it, no big deal. You don't have to. And all the paints in my palette today is Prussian blue, ultramarine blue, Payne's gray, burnt umber, peacock blue, cadmium yellow deep. There's a couple of mixtures in here, but I mostly have a quinachradone magenta today. This is brilliant orange, but I'm not using that today. And so I talk about the colors that I particularly use, in each video, and then the links are all there. You can just go buy the colors and the links. So I know some people had said, oh, you don't have this. Yeah, I have every description of every video, of every link, and all that stuff in there. We could be using a cheap old gold pen today or gold watercolor paint. I find the paint works better because if you really want that shiny kind of gold, it seems to work better than anything else. I don't know. So we're going to do a technique similar to the one I did last year with cards that look like this. That's not cool. So we're going to be painting and then kind of removing the paint. It's kind of like erasing. I think I'll just do one big one. And I love this technique. I do it often on my channel here. And there's no traceable for all you lovely patrons, which I love. This is a tutorial about really just painting and having fun with paint and moving paint around. Okay? So I'm going to picture myself maybe kind of cascading downward, kind of like this one. Some greens here, maybe like a poinsettia type of leaves, flower here. It could be a rose, but something like that. You could start off with doing the flower first and then having the branch cascade down. If you need to just take a light pencil, this is a 2H pencil, and just kind of guide yourself by drawing a little line this way. Maybe a few branches off that to figure out where you want to place things. Do that. I think this cat's tongue brush is perfect for making poinsettia, whatever you want to say, how you want to say it, type of flowers, because of the perfect point on here. But not necessarily. You could still use a nice 10. So why do I have 4 things of yellow in these wells? So I like to show people sometimes how I mix colors. So I'm using yellow for all of these. Gonna mix yellow with peacock blue here for a light green. More peacock blue here for medium green. A little more blue here. And then I can grab the Prussian blue up here. The yellow for a deeper green. Boom, like magic, how that happened, right? I mix my greens. I don't take it from the tube. I think it looks more natural. And then I can add a little brown if I want to. This is the burnt umber. Just to make it, see, this was really kind of blue green. I can go back in and fix it too. Get it really deep. And this paper, just like ours paper, is 100% cotton and it's cold pressed. It's going to soak it like a sponge. So I might have to keep mixing more paint. Now, for my reds, I make my red. I do use cadmium and red light, but that's just like an orangey red. I won't use that red for this particular exercise. I'll take yellow and I'll mix it with magenta. This is the quinachradone magenta. It makes a nice, pretty red. I'll add some more. That's more of a pink. So I'll go back in and I'll add a little more yellow, and it makes a perfect red. So if you have cyan, magenta, yellow, you mix all the colors with that. So yellow and cyan make a nice blue. And then cyan and yellow make the green. So, you know, that's how you mix the secondary colors. But this red works best for me. I like this kind of bright pinky red. You might choose not to, but I think it looks better than a real orangey red for this kind of exercise. Adding more. Okay. That's the accent. All right, so once you have the colors mixed up, I think I need to mix up some more red though, because we're going to be using that. We're going to be making a poinsettia. It's not just going to have like little berries. So I'm going to mix up a good amount. I'm using the cat's tongue brush. And now I'm going to add more water. So it's kind of thick before, now it's really loose. Just like, you know, tea. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to picture that it's going to be kind of here. And so I'm using this pointy brush, which is great. Just going to push down, kind of curve it, and kind of pull it back. And then lift it up, and you get that little point. Just like that. It's more of a kind of a wider leaf here. So I'll do another one here. Push down. They're kind of a longer point, so I'm going to fix this one a little bit. Longer point, and then go like that. That looks more like a poinsettia. See? Just going to go like that, and then layer it. And another one here. Kind of on the side. And put another one here. See, it's kind of bending on the side. It's kind of like cascading down a little bit. And then I'll put another one kind of in here. I'm leaving white space in between. Sometimes you can do like a layering technique where it's a lighter red color and you can do one on top, kind of like a sunflower. So I've got the first one down. And then we'll just go ahead and start plopping in a second one kind of over here, just like peeking through. It doesn't even have to look exactly like a poinsettia. Just has to have that feeling of it. And having come off the paper. Just like that. So I've got two. I like to do things kind of in threes. I don't necessarily need to have a poinsettia, but maybe something small like that kind of looks like one here. Kind of a little red flower, right? And mix up some more color. It looks a little too pinky. I'm going to add more yellow and more pigment here. The paint's a little thick. It's kind of like a cross between a cream and some butter consistency. Okay, now I've got those three down. Really dark. Put that red right in there. And now I'm going to take my brush. I also want to loosen up some burnt umber, by the way. Put that right there, and I'm going to add a little Payne's gray to it. I like that deeper brown. I could start to play with adding in some branches. So I'll take the tip of this cat's tongue brush. Just kind of pull it down a little bit. And then having the swooping one here. Kind of one coming out here and here. And from there, I'm going to add some fun leaves. Now I'm going to pick up the 10 because I like the roundness of this. That one was nice and pointy, perfect for the poinsettia. I want more rounder tip kind of leaves. So I've got those nice colors that I mixed up. There's that medium green. Mix up some more. I'm realizing that I need more paint. And it's this push down, pull up kind of movement. And you can kind of work fast. Push down, pull up, push down, pull up. Just kind of pushing down and making these little leaves real quick. See? Oops. This one I kind of went a little slower, but it's just push down and lifting up and get a little point to it. You can even go like where you're making it's one of those days at the end of the week where you're like, oh, brain cramp. Yeah, the evergreen kind of leaves. The pine needle kind of stems. So we could do that with this dark green, which is nice. And I'm just doing this kind of wiggle kind of movement. I can push one down here and just kind of wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And that's really dark. I might add a little more Prussian blue and a little yellow. Let's get that a little bit lighter. But again, it was just this wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. See how I kind of went wiggle, wiggle? And look at that. It looks like a nice, pretty evergreen. Just loose, kind of going in here. So we're building this whole like cascading, fun, whatnot. Let's do some leaves by the poinsettia. I got this bright lime kind of green. Just get some loose, see? Don't worry if it doesn't look perfect. We're gonna just have fun kind of destroying it too. And some people are like, why do you do that? Because it's fun and it looks kind of cool. So we're just gonna put some simple leaves up in here, kind of fill in the spots, get the dark tones too. And we can make some of these, evergreen kind of stems also. Same wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Once I have the plan of doing the flowers, and I kind of work around that, right? I start filling in with the greens. Could add some brown again, some stems coming this way. It's like up and out and down. And we'll add some of that nice green. Getting that lime green color. Chartreusey kind of green. And then that medium green, which I like also. You want a variety of greens. You don't want it to be one note, because then it looks kind of boring. So I'm going back in, just adding some more. Just do this like wiggle, wiggle. We are leaving some white space in between, some like air. Does that make sense? Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I just like that look. Right? We're almost there. Let me put another one down here, a darker one. And do that wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. See, I'm leaving like white spaces in between. Adding some more paint. All that fun. I don't want to get too crazy putting all the stuff in, because now we're going to do this thing where we destroy it. I know. You're like, why would you do that? That's the whole fun of it all. To paint to destroy. I had like the snide. I feel like the character of the, like the bad character, like the Joker or something, laughing like ha 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 ha. Going back in here and just adding a few more little sprigs. And I'm gonna add some like bright colors up here too. I went too dark. I like that bright medium green actually. I'm very fond of that. We could put some berries down here. Kind of loose. And make this a little bit thicker with the paint. It's very watery, the other one, these ones. I don't know if I necessarily wanted that. I'm just making some round dots, right? You can throw some up here. That looks kind of messy, but it doesn't matter at this point because we're going to do our little fun thing. See, we built that whole thing. Add a few more greens down here. That one got a little messy, and up in here. Okay. At this point, I'm going to add a little more red up in here. You can go over this. again. Now it's kind of dried, but that's okay. We'll add the yellow center in a bit. I'm going to go mix up some more red. Just going on top of this red that I did. Okay. And this one. See, you really need to mix up a lot of paint. And you do that, you're going to be really fast at mixing it up again. It dries. Okay. This is why you need this brush. Because this brush is a lot, like I said, sturdier and stiffer. So I'm taking clean water at this point. Clean water. And we're going to start to play with adding in some color. And actually I want to add in some yellow, a little bit of yellow. I'm grabbing some more of this yellow. Taking out some of that green. I made my yellow kind of a mess. Just some yellow right here. I add a little red to it so it's more of an orangey yellow. But I'm choosing to put some yellow down. So I'm just going to start by putting some yellow there and over in here, right? I just dabbed that. Now I'll clean off my brush. Got some nice water, clean water. We're going to play with, that's a lot of yellow, but that's okay. You can move it around. See? I'm just going to destroy our greens now. You can lift this up, by the way, if you want to. See how I'm just kind of moving that paint around? Oh, yeah. And I never know how it will come out sometimes. And that's the beauty of it. This is like I do live tutorials almost. Like you're sitting there next to me. I'm going to destroy that poinsettia. Didn't know what was coming, right? Going and grabbing that water. See how like a lot of water that's going in there? Just kind of destroying this. Now, some people are like, why the hell would she do that? Because it's fun. Because I can. And then moving some of that yellow, maybe go back and add some of that green. So you have more of a green feeling to it. I'm going to take some of that yellow up that I had over here. All right. Now I've got water. I'm just going to kind of go in here. Moving around. I'm tapping back on my paper towel too because I don't want to mush it too much. I want to mush it. See, and then lift it and tap it back. So it starts to get soft and moved around, but not completely destroyed. You can see what it is. You can kind of go in here. Now you're just moving paint around at this point. Now, I might want to like erase some of it down here. Take the paper towel, kind of removing it just like this. See, it's kind of a fun thing to do this. It's like you're erasing it with the paper towel too. See, I love how this all just kind of just fell apart. Some people might not like that, but that's the whole point. The journey is to go in here and play. Now that's getting a little muddy. Why? Because it was brown here. So I'm just going to go back and grab that pretty pink. Lift up some of that brownish red. Just go back out here. And of course, the red hitting the green will make brown. You just kind of clean it up by lifting up the paint a little bit. So I'm just kind of tapping around that red and kind of clean it up so it doesn't get super muddy. But I like to destroy them. Yep. You're like, why did you do that? Because I wanted to. Go back and add some bright green in here if you want to. Or even add some blue. So at this point I could take some cobalt. Excuse me, I'm going to grab cobalt. I didn't talk about that. I have cobalt here, by the way. I'm play around adding a little blue up in here. That's going to change it a little bit more. Like a bluish gray. See that? You could go back in also and put those leaves back in once it's done. Now I feel like it's really kind of muddyish up here. I can tap this paint also. There was some bright yellow pigment going on here from my paper towel. So I'll kind of removing that. Look, you can just go like this, twisty twist and lift. Pretty, right? We can go back in and add some greens too. I'll show you that once it's dry. But you really have to wait kind of until it's dry. So now we've got this nice, kind of really soft thing happening. I kind of erased that, but I'll go back and put some of that red in. And that has that whole abstract kind of look. It's not abstract because you obviously know what it is, right? But it has that really kind of soft quality to it. I just enjoy kind of painting this way. Some people may not. So I might go back in and add some of that poinsettia. I actually can even use this brush, this little guy. You'd be surprised what you can use. See? Just use it on its side like this. And go in and back add some of that bright red. Oh, it's still damp. Just kind of go in here and add some of that. You can just add the little berries. Just go back in here. They kind of washed away. And at this point, also, if you wanted to splatter some, you could splatter some. I don't want to do any of that. I want this really kind of like a soft kind of picture, just like the cards I did last year. In this point, you can go take your cat's tongue brush. Again, get that point back in here. And some of them, not all of them. You want some of them to look like that, and then some can just kind of like sitting back there, washed away. See this one that got so wet, it's just doing the spider movement. I don't necessarily like that. So at this point, I would let it kind of just sit, dry, right? You could go in a little bit if you wanted to. Grab some of this yellow, make a medium green here. Put a couple, but it's going to be, this part might be a little bit dry, but do some of those wiggles that I lost that I want to put in here. And then kind of mush those around too. Paint and mush. See, go back, add some water. Yeah, you can kind of add those. Don't go too crazy. And a little bit darker green. All right, getting ahead of myself here. So I'm going to leave this. I might go back in and add those little wiggles again here, but I think I'm going to wait till it dries before I start to play with adding in more color, because it starts to get a little messy. You know? Some parts are dry, but right there. So right now, you're going to have to just let it sit, right? You're going to have to let it sit and play around with it, and then we'll come back and we'll do the final touches. All right, so once it's dry, you see all the things here that are kind of washed away. You can go back in and add a few of those little, let me grab my color here. Get to my darker green here. Some of those little lines if you want to. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Just so they can define them. Just a little bit. Don't have to, you want to show too much. Yeah, just go back and add a few of them. You can go back and add a few of those little wiggle, like evergreens. And then where the berries get kind of washed out, and add a couple of greens out this way. That's the fun. So you get that washed out look. Going adding the medium green. And you can kind of go back in and add some of the greenery. Just a little bit. See, I'm just kind of just adding just a couple, but I love that washed away. What happened to that poinsettia? So you can go back in and grab your red. You're mixing up some more red. This paper just really soaks it up like Irish paper, so I got to mix up a really great amount of color here. And that is really thick paint. I'm adding more water. You can take the tip of this brush and kind of outline the poinsettia. So I'm just going to a little bit there like that. Put some veins in the center. You know, they have the veins and they have the little lines kind of going on the side. Like a leaf, like a big old leaf. So you put the vein down the center and then the little ones on the side. These things you add, I wouldn't do it like everywhere. Just suggest it, you know, in certain areas. And then I'll go back in and kind of fill in some berries that I missed that I want to keep that got washed away in the storm of Ellen in her wild craziness. See that? Again, you can just put the little line here. And so for the center of the poinsettia, you know, yellow dots like this. Just a nice thick paint here. I'll add a little burnt umber just to dull it down a little bit, and just gonna fill in little yellow dots. Separate them here too. Just go right on top of that red. You kind of barely see it, but you might want to put a little brown here on the edge. Just little daps, doop, 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 so you can see, or even like a little, almost like the Payne's Gray, the dark black kind of color in here. Now, this is where I talked about the gold paint. You can add the accent of that. It's much better than a pen. You can still use the cat tongues brush, or you could use an even smaller brush, like the Princeton 8 long round. I didn't talk about that, but I figured you guys are pretty intelligent. You can figure out how to get a nice pointy brush. So the cat's tongue is pointy. I'll show you how to use that one if you want me to. And this one. So then we just kind of outline some of the leaves with the gold. Right, the vein, the outside of the poinsettia. And even in gold, like in the center where the little dots are. You want to be able to move the paint, but not make it super watery, so you can see it's more opaque. If you don't do that, it won't be as opaque and you won't see that pretty gold. See, I'm just kind of going around some of the edges of these petals here. I'm going to put some like next to the little berries. Like I said, just play around with the gold. I wouldn't do it everywhere, but it's nice. You can see the accents right in here. You can see people can go overboard with gold. It's easy, you know. Very easy to do. It's one of those things. Very easy to do. Just kind of moving it around the paper. And that's that. This is my little really loose kind of I wouldn't say it's abstract, because it's not, because you can see what it is. But it's just this atmospheric, kind of sweet, loose little poinsettia that I wanted to have fun with today. Go back and in. See, you can go back and play with these little leaves. And then I like how these ones kind of just kind of fade like that. Get really dark in there. Play around with it. Have fun. That's the journey. Now I feel like this spot right in here is kind of bugging me. This maybe needs to cascade down more. So maybe I'd have like a leaf. It needs to kind of like feel like it's going through the paper this way. That's just personal for me. And I can kind of wash that one out. And add a darker tone one here. Again, we're playing here. We're just kind of going in and adding. Boom. That's it. This is all she wrote. Adding in some leaves. And again, I could kind of go back in and add leaf and kind of wash it a little bit. Don't go too much, because you could really pill your paper. But it's kind of fun to play with all this. Isn't it? I thought it was kind of fun. So see, I have that nice perfect leaf. It's drying. I could kind of wash it a little bit, so it kind of fits with the rest of the picture. Just adding a little water, kind of washing it a little bit. So it's there, but it's kind of like, oh, how pretty is that? All right, so there you go. That's what we have today. I hope you guys enjoy that. Don't have to use poinsettia. Could have done like, just berries and holly, and did the same kind of technique like I showed you. I'm going to put the link to the one I did last year in here. I just thought I'd throw a poinsettia in here. You know, you want to add a little white in here, go crazy. These are just techniques that I want you to try to get you out of your comfort zone, to play around more. It's all about fun. If it becomes frustrating, don't do it. Step away and come back. All right, guys, have a great day. Learn to play. Don't get frustrated. Remember, all the links are in my description box. I'm not trying to hide anything from you. So you just got to click on those words, show more, and everything pops out. All right, and I always use Holbein. My older videos I had used a different kind of paint, but the newer ones on have all been Holbein. I love them because the color is very vibrant, and it's just a thing that I enjoy. You can use any kind of paint you want. The paints might not be the same, obviously, because not everybody's going to have a peacock blue, right? They'll have cobalt, they'll have Payne's gray. I'm going to mush this green a little bit because I didn't like it. Got a little, I don't know, I didn't like it. Anyway, I'm rambling on here. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon.